a fellow Drake warrior. What a sight.
There are quite a few interesting items that you can grab within the Lands of Shadow, and the most interesting are the Rock Heart and the Priestess Heart, which not only allow you to assume dragon form, but they provide some pretty cool buffs as well. So today we're going to be taking a look at how you can get your hands on both of these hearts, as well as a pretty sweet katana, all while completing Drake Warrior Egon's side quest. So let's get ready to bring the pain to some dragons and get after it. Igon can be found in the southeast of the Gravesite Plain, and if you follow the highlighted path to the south after crossing the Ellic Great Bridge, you'll reach a fork in the road. If you take a right at the fork, you'll come across the Pillar Path Waypoint side of Grace, and as you approach, you'll hear Egon crying out nearby immediately west of the site of Grace. After exhausting his dialogue, you'll head south of where Egon's located, where you'll find the Dragon's Pit not too far off in the distance, but before reaching its entrance, you'll be invaded by an ancient Dragon Man NPC, who isn't really very tough if you've already racked up some Erdtree fragments. After finally defeating him, you can head to the Dragon's Pit, which will take you through to the southern part of the map to the Jagged Peak, where the Grand Altar of Dragon Communion can be found. Once inside the pit, there's a dragon off in one of the side caves, which will actually drop a dragon heart and an ancient dragon smithing stone for your trouble. You'll also have to reach the boss of the dungeon, which will require you to take a leap of faith in front of a large stone basin at the lowest level. Once the leap of faith is completed, you're clear to engage the boss, who might not seem impressive, but the special attacks that come off his giant katana pack a big punch, so make sure you bring him down quickly. Once he dies, you'll receive the Dragon Hunter's Great Katana, and more importantly, it clears your way to the Jagged Peak. If you head straight out of the cave, you'll run directly into a shallow pond with a sleeping Jagged Peak Drake that you'll need to kill to progress Egon's story. Even though you don't really see him, you can find a glowing message from him up on the high ground that's overlooking the lake. Once the Drake's defeated, Egon will move from his location near the Pillar Pathway side of Grace to a different location that's further up the mountain. Not sure how he crawled there, but he did. After the Drake's defeated, before heading up the mountain, you'll need to make a quick stop at the Grand Altar of Dragon Communion and have a chat with the Priestess there, which will give you a little bit more to the lore and story of the quest, and you'll receive the Ancient Dragon's Blessing. After exhausting the Priestess's dialogue, you can head back to where you took down the Drake and take the path northeast up the mountain through the archway. The path will curve around to the south before going east again, and at the end of the path, you'll reach a spirit spring. At the top of that spirit spring, turn to the southeast and you'll find a rope bridge that you'll need to cross to reach the foot of the Jagged Peak side of Grace. From here, you can just continue up the path where you'll run into two Jagged Peak Drakes that are fighting it out. If you want to sit back and watch them fight it out and weaken each other a bit, you can, or you can test your might, buff up, sprint in there, and send it. After the fight's over, you'll hear Egon cackling in the distance, and if you head east where the path continues up into the Jagged Peak, you can exhaust his dialogue and he'll give you Egon's furled finger, which you can use to summon him later on. From here, you can continue east past Egon and ride up two Spirit Springs, go through the cave to the southeast, and then head south. Just be careful of the falling boulders. As you follow the path, you'll come across sleeping ancient dragon Sensax. From here, you have two main courses of action you can take. The first being to ride around him, and the second to bring him down. If you're having trouble fighting him in the large open danger area, you can just adjust fire and lure him to where the terrain's just a bit tighter to finish him off. After he's defeated, you'll need to take the pretty linear path up the mountain to face off with the final boss of the area, Bayle the Dread. It's important to note that Egon's summon sign is within Bayle's arena, and it can only be seen once the fight starts. I know it sounds made up, but it's real. It's actually located about 10 steps within Bayle's arena. If you're just coming into the fight for the first time, once Bayle starts entering from above, you can immediately turn around and run to the summon sign with enough time to summon Egon and get out of the way before Bayle's opening attacks. If you're new to Elden Ring, this could be a pretty frustrating fight since when Bayle's low on health, he can throw down some pretty ridiculous AoE damage, but you can always summon Egon to run some interference for you. Once you finally bring down Bayle, he'll drop the Heart of Bayle, which can be brought back to the Grand Altar of Dragon Communion and exchanged for some pretty awesome dragon incantations. From here, the story ends, and you can just back clean up by returning to Egon's location, where you can pick up his armor and great bow. You can also return to the Grand Altar of Dragon Communion and pick up the Priestess Heart as well as her Flowerstone Gavel, which is located to the right of the Communion Bowl. The Rock Heart for the second dragon form isn't tied to Egon's quest, but it is tied to the Dragon Peak. But first, you'll need to head over to the Shadow Keep, where you'll need to uncover a painting that's tucked away in a secret room. As you can see from the map footage, you can take an alternate route to the Shadow Keep that cuts through the Poisonous Swamp and through the Fort of Reprimand. Once you enter the keep and light the Side of Grace, you'll need to head straight ahead, where you'll immediately be faced with the Golden Hippopotamus entry boss. After the Golden Hippo's no more, you'll need to make a pretty decent sprint through the keep to the painting's location, but if you follow the path I take, it should be a piece of cake. Or like an old brownie that's been sitting in the sun too long. It's really up to you. I'll speed up the footage for you enough so you can easily follow along, and I'll be back in a sec. Once you finally touch down in the secret basement, just head to the room to the east, where you'll find the Domain of Dragons painting in the corner of the room. And once you pick it up, you can head back to the Jagged Peak mountainside Side of Grace. Once you're at the mountainside, you'll need to ride southwest to the nearest spirit spring, and when you use the spring, just make sure that you're facing to the southwest. This will cause the spirit spring to vault you high up into the air, and when you land, you'll land on a small mountain pathway. If you take that pathway to the end, you can hop up on a small outcropping where you'll come across a glowing chair. If you wait just a little bit, a ghost painter will materialize, and once he's finished air Picassoing an invisible painting, he'll disappear, leaving you the Rock Heart in his place, which will allow you to assume a second dragon form that boosts dragon incantations when used. Stay safe out there, and as always, good hunting.